All right, let's just see, it's, all right, starting now.
Okay, great. Anyway, the movie was called The Group, and it was from a Mary McCarthy novel, and was another Sidney Lumet picture, right? And I was working on a lot of Sidney Lumet pictures. And Sidney did something every year, or even maybe sometimes twice a year. And the leading woman, there were bunches of women, and the leading woman in this was Bergen, you know, who was at that time 19 years old. And as the makeup department used to say, you could dip her in shit, and she'd come up looking as beautiful, you know. She'd come in the morning to get made up. I'd say, what the fuck are you doing here? You know, we used to call her, let's see, she had a nickname too, what the hell was it? Candace, no. We called her Mahatma.
Mahatma.
That was her nickname, Mahatma Candy. That was her nickname. And she came in, and there was a woman named Jessica Walters, who was one of them. There was one woman who was a really terrific actress who died at a very young age, and who was, I'll think of her name next time, or we could even pause it and not go on camera. I'll go on the TV and I'll go on the computer and find her. A lovely, lovely woman. Quite beautiful, with a delicate acting technique. And she was quite beautiful too, but nobody compared to Candy. Jessica Walters was beside herself. You can see Jessica Walters now. She's on various things. The last thing was with George Segal, a couple of old farts who get back together again after a divorce or something. And she was beside herself with jealousy over Candy and what was our obvious affection for her, because she was so fucking beautiful. You know, you had to do was pass your sponge over her face and say, okay, baby, put your lipstick on, lick your lips, remember you're a star. We do that. Walters used to get up out of the chair after we worked like a dog on her, although she wasn't ugly at all. She'd say, do I deserve you? Do I deserve you, boys? And we would say, no, you don't. But we were so bored that a bunch of us wrote a musical called A Tale of Two Sydneys.
Two Sydneys?
Two Sydneys. Sidney Lumet was the director.
Right.
And the producer was a guy named Sidney Buckman. A tale of two Sydneys, a tale of two woes. Da, 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 da. And then one of the ballads was, do I deserve you? You make us beautiful. You know, anyway, at this time, I had was shortly after, well, maybe a year and a half after, I had been doing this movie that I told you about, which I will tell you more about.
Right.
And so I had a scooter that I had hustled from Lambretta, and Candy loved the fucking scooter, and it was a two-seater, which was worse. So she insisted I'd carry her everywhere.
Oh.
And you could see the two Sydneys would rush out, you know, and watch this, and they were,
Don't let anything happen to her.
right, and they were scared shitless of alienating her by saying anything, which is the way it always is with the movie stars, you know.
Right.
The director, the producer, the people in charge are always desperately trying to keep that person safe,
Sure.
because they've put up they're paying a lot of money for what is called a completion bond.
Right.
Right? That guarantees that the movie will be made, that the movie will be finished.
Mhm.
And she insisted on my taking her everywhere. And so we were shooting at the Connecticut College for Women out of New Haven, and we were shooting in New York and in the Fox Studios, and we had a wonderful 2 days on Astor Place, which was, at that time, it had that kiosk in the center that hadn't been refashioned yet. So it passed for a 1930s kiosk, and you know, all you got to do is clear the square, and there was no new construction. So, and you hired 30 or 40 cars, old cars, and parked them in the street. And the extras all dressed up and all that. So we spent a lot of time there, and it would be, I'd pick her up at her house or apartment or someplace, and we would go there. She gave me as a gift, she gave me a large stone, a literal, smooth, large stone about this shape. And on it she had painted, "I love you, BH," and it was a picture of the two of us on the scooter.
Oh, wow.
I threw it away.
Oh, great. That's really smart of you.
Don't ask me why, I just threw it away.
You threw it away.
We had so much crap in the house, I just got rid of it. Anyway, we had many long talks, and her thing was, she wanted to be an intellectual, and she wanted, and I was, of course, at that time, I had a master's degree. No, I hadn't done my PhD yet, but I was an egghead. I saw myself as somebody who loved books and who knew a lot of things, and who knew classics, and who knew the Greek tragedies, and Plato and Aristotle, and on up through the years to all the great poets and the great novelists. You know what that is like. So she was always pumping me for information about that, and always trying to reassure me that even though she had dropped out of the University of Pennsylvania at the age of 19, she was smart, and she could talk to me, and I was the guy. And she talked about her family too, and how she felt she was buried under Charlie McCarthy, who was, of course, Edgar Bergen's dummy. You know, that Mortimer Snerd and Charlie McCarthy meant more to her father than she did. I don't think that's exactly right, but I think it's a very convenient thing to say about.
Well, she writes it in her autobiography that way, too.
Does she?
Yeah.
Well, she was also a charmer. She was very charming, very sweet. The last time I saw her, to show you, I mean, we were really close, affectionately close. And really, as I think I told you last time we taped, that she wound up in Hollywood dating Warren Beatty for a time. And they would call me at, some ungodly hour, because they were, Dave Chasen's or someplace at 3 o'clock in the morning, or say even earlier, 1 o'clock in the morning, but they forgot.
3 hour time difference.
There was a time difference, and so they would get me out of bed and call me. And then of course, later on, she married a French director, Louis Malle.
Right.
And she had a daughter, Chloe, and we corresponded. I think it was way before email. We corresponded about being a parent, growing up. And the last time I saw her was about 3 or 4 years ago. I was still walking, and we're on Fifth Avenue, and I saw her, and she was with a guy, and I said, Candace, and she looked very startled. It was like 40 years after this thing, and she was a middle-aged woman, in her late middle age. God, four or 5 years ago. What year was that? 08. She must have been in her 60s, in the mid-60s. So I ran up to her and gave her a kiss, which embarrassed the shit out of her. And she introduced me to the guy who was with my husband, blah, 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 blah. And that's the last I saw her. So.
Stop.